Kia ora koutou. Hello everyone and welcome to Progress in Practice by GoWell Consulting, the series where we profile the genuine sustainability and circular economy initiatives being brought to market by the businesses we work with. I'm Nick Morrison and this is the show where good ideas meet real world action. Today we're talking fashion, but not in the way you might expect. Most of us know that the clothing industry has a waste problem, massive waste problem. What's harder to solve is what to do about it. For one Wellington label, the answer turned out to be something genuinely surprising. Turn the clothes back into the earth. Kowtow is a fashion label built on a foundation of ethical and sustainable practice, and they've just taken the commitment a significant step further with an initiative that transforms unwanted garments into biochar. It's a process that doesn't just divert clothing from landfills, it actively puts something useful back into the ground. In the conversation you're about to hear, I speak with Emma Wallace, Managing Director of Kowtow, about this initiative, how it came to life, the thinking behind it, and what it means for the way we might all start to think about the clothes we no longer wear. It's a fascinating conversation with a leader who is redefining what it means to be a responsible fashion brand in 2025. Really hope you enjoy it. Cheers.
Hi Nick, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Where are you coming to us from today?
I am in sunny, maybe not so sunny Wellington today at our head office, our workroom and our atelier. We're based down here.
Fantastic. Hey, well, thank you so much for giving some time up to tell us about your progress in practice. Please tell us, what is your progress in practice that we're talking about today?
Well, we're talking about a really exciting innovation for Kowtow, which is creating organic cotton biochar from our end-of-life clothing. So this is a massive piece of work for Kowtow. It's been a massive achievement. Actually, it's probably been like a 20-year journey for us to get to this point.
Wow.
But it's been super exciting. We only launched it. It's hot off the presses. We only launched it a few weeks ago. So you're one of the first people we're talking to about it. And it really is embracing some of our bigger sort of purpose, which is about closing the loop. So going from that linear system when you create a product where it's make it, use it, discard it, to something that is circular. So it's going back to the earth without harm and actually doing some good.
Amazing. I want to talk all about that and about that sort of transition, but I just want to go back and just biochar. Can you give us a bit of an explanation of what biochar is and how it's made?
Yeah, sure. So biochar is something which is a bit like charcoal, but it's different because of what it is made from. So it's from biomass. So generally speaking, it's used to take forestry slash and turn it into a resource that can go back into the earth, and add something to soil. So it is a biomass that starts is the resource. Then this mass goes through a pyrolysis process. So that's in a retort kiln. It's heated up to 600 degrees over quite a few hours, and then it basically reduces that biomass down to a carbon-rich material. So that's what we've done with our end-of-life clothing. So the clothing that has come back in our Take Back program, we call that a Regenerate program now. And this is our first project using that resource. So we've got about a ton of this resource, which probably sounds like a lot to you, but actually in the scheme of the fashion industry, a ton is tiny.
Minuscule,
Yeah. But, and it really made us think we've reached out to so many people over the years to help us find solutions. What do we do to this to sort of close the loop? Most people turn around and go, you haven't got enough. That's way too little. We're not interested. Most of the options are offshore. So we decided actually, rather than sitting waiting for something to come along, let's try and do something in New Zealand, deal with this issue here and see if we can find some kind of solution for at least part of this. And that's where we decided to, have a trial with creating biochar.
Fantastic. So just a bit more on the process. So what you literally take Kowtow clothes that have been returned and you've decommissioned them, I think is the term you use, taken off bits and pieces like the metal buttons or anything that's not the organic cotton. and then you throw it into a big kiln. And do you
Mm-hmm.
put other stuff in there? Is there some wood slash and stuff in there, or is it just 100% your clothing in there? And
Yeah,
then
we did. Yeah, we weren't sure whether we needed to or not. So we did one of our first trials. We did actually do a combo, but
right,
actually we don't need to. So it's just our
just
clothing.
just your clothing. That must be a weird feeling, throwing your clothing into a big
Very
kind of
weird.
oven, I guess, in a way, right?
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
heat it up. And so what is it? Is it heated up like with electricity, with gas? Has it got big fire underneath it? I know we've actually got a picture to show in
Oh
a
yeah,
bit later
yeah,
on, but
yeah.
how's it heated up?
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting kind of thing. It is actually fire wood, but it's not burnt, so it is baked. But the
Yes.
way the kiln is designed, that the material, it's kind of like a three-part kiln. I don't
Yes.
know if the picture will be able to show this, but
Yes.
there's kind of like the material to create the heat on either side, and in the middle is the area where you put the clothing, and it doesn't actually touch any of that heating,
Right.
any of
What
the yeah.
Hey, what we'll do, Emma, is I'll go to those pictures straight away,
Yeah.
because we're
Okay.
talking about that now. I think it's very relevant.
Yes.
And so, what we've got here, if you just talk us through these images that we've got on screen. So,
Cool.
this is the
Awesome.
decommissioning phase, yeah? First?
Yeah. So when we get garments brought back to us at the end of their life, their usable life, we go through a decommissioning process. We made a decision coming up to 6 years ago. We'd started using different fibers in our garments. We'd started using tencel, wool. We decided to sort of not do that anymore and go back to our original material that most of the range was, but that we'd started bringing these other fibers in. So fair trade organic cotton. So all of our clothing is fair trade organic cotton. But then we realized that if you chuck that into the earth and you let it decompose or something, there's still going to be some things left over. And that was small amounts of plastic and things like the thread that actually holds your garment together, some of the interlinings. We already only use natural buttons, but you can see the domes down there. They're actually metal, so we take those off and we can send them back to the supplier, and they recycle them. So I think
Really?
Yeah, it's really important when you're going through any of these sorts of processes. You've got to work with people. You can't do it by yourself. You've got to bring people on board with that journey, right? So we still do decommission, we take them off. But now that we've gone plastic free as of the start of 2024, replacing that synthetic thread with organic cotton, all of our labels are organic cotton. We take off the targa and nut natural buttons, but the bulk of the garment is organic cotton, and it's ready to go to create a biochar, which is safe to return to the earth. So this is a really important part of the process. Yeah.
And so this looks quite manual. Is it still pretty manual at this stage? Someone in the office is getting some scissors and cutting them out.
Yeah, we have a station, we have boxes, we divide them into different types of sort of constructions, I guess, because we didn't really know when we set out on this. We were like, will we have to divide up the denim and the knitwear and the t-shirting? Will all of it be able to have a certain solution? So we just sort of categorized from the start. We thought that was a good way of just being able to know what your resource is and what you're dealing with.
Okay, cool. Okay, so they come in, they can't be repaired, they can't be resold or anything. So these otherwise would have been going to landfill. So we decommission, take the buttons, etc. out, and then this is the kiln you were telling us about. So tell us who's in this picture, and carry on talking about the kiln as you were.
Cool. Sure. Yeah. So two really cool people. So Gosha on the right there is the founder of Kowtow. So I mean, this is a real passion project for her. She started the business because she wanted to make clothing that was fairer to people and better for the planet. So this is I don't know if dream come true is the right word, but definitely feels like a full circle moment for her.
Yeah.
And she's with Matt, who is a local farmer in the Akatalawas, and we're connected to him through a really awesome woman called Joni, who works has a business called the Good Carbon Farm, and she deals with biochar and distributing it to schools to put in their gardens and all sorts of things. So she introduced us to Matt. He has an amazing piece of land that he has been trying to farm. It has an incredible piece of native bush on it, but also a massive amount of ex-forestry and slash. And so he started doing this because he wanted to find a solution. What am I going to do with all of this slash? How can I get the soil coming back to life? So he has this retort kiln. You can see the round doors. So that's where he takes the slash, puts it in there, and that's how we get the heat up. And then in the middle, there's a smaller door, and that's where you put in the biomass. In our case, it's clothing. So they don't actually have a touch. There's no burning. It's baking. It's just heating it up to this really high temperature.
Right, gotcha. And so both of these circular doors are open and then put on both sides are being used, are on fire and heating, or just one side?
Both, yes.
Both, right. And does it have to be quite controlled to get to that 600-degree Celsius temperature you talked about?
Yeah, he's watching it all the time, and and this is one version of the retort kiln. There are others that we've started talking to other people who are doing this. There's people down south who are using vine from vineyards, using that as the biomass to create biochar. So I mean, there's definitely more sophisticated looking setups, but what we really wanted to do is we wanted to do a trial. We wanted to just really understand the concept and what we could get from it. So it was a really, I guess, grassroots way of going about it.
Yeah. And can I ask, Emma, how much is in that bag there? And I want to know how much you sort of put in there, because you talked about having a ton of discarded clothes that you're looking for a solution for. How much is this that went in there?
That particular bag, I'm not sure, but for our trial, we used 150 kg of clothing, mixed types. We did, I think we ended up doing like 3 different sort of sets with different combinations of things, and we got them all tested afterwards because we really wanted to understand whether this thing was actually not going to do any harm. It was actually going to do something positive. So we really wanted to do that, I think, and it was really important that because we'd prepped this clothing by being plastic free, by being natural, by removing anything extra, it made it a singular sort of resource, I guess, the best possible way.
Okay, amazing. Right. So now I want to talk to you about the next step. So this image now, can you talk to us? What are we seeing on the left and what are we seeing on the right?
Sure. Yeah. So the image on the left, that's kind of what it looks like once the pyrolysis process has been complete. So it's obviously black.
It looks just like black material, right?
Yeah. It still retains some of its form of the material. So you can see there's some knitwear, some sort of t-shirting, and it definitely doesn't feel like fabric, but it's amazing. It's like a ghost of the fabric, it's like this form. And what we found is that to really make it work as hard as it possibly can, and through the advice from all these biochar experts, we take that product and then we soak it. So we sort of supercharge it and we soak it in seaweed tea, and we grind it up so it's a bit more of a sort of a more powdery texture. A bit like that. So that means it's just a lot easier to add into the soil and to start doing its good work.
So
you could just
So to clarify, it comes out, it goes into that kiln, and have you cut it up and stuff? Have you sort of shredded it into pieces, or you just chucked like a whole pair of jeans or a whole t-shirt in there?
Oh, it's pretty much just garments,
Yeah, right. Comes out looking like they're just gone black, basically, and then you shove them into the seaweed. Can I ask, is there other ways to to activate it and put stuff in it, or is it like, or seaweed's kind of just what you'd advise? Do you know if they do other things? Like, can you put other stuff?
Yeah, I think they probably do. But I mean, seaweed just seemed like a really natural choice for us to use the seaweed. So that could be something we experiment with and work more closely on to see what would be a different version for that. But yeah, and then we sort of, you can see through the muslin, we then kind of drain it after it's been soaked. So it's kind of a dry powder. Yeah. And then it's really easy to mix into the soil because obviously, we want it to be something that people want to use easily. Yeah. So I mean, the bag on the right, it's a bit of a marketing gimmick, I guess. This was like a press kit. So
I got one of these.
Bags. Yeah,
I got one of these sent to me, and I put it onto my veggies about over the weekend, I think it was. So I haven't seen anything just yet, but I'll let you know.
Well, in sustainability, Nick, things don't happen necessarily overnight. It's a long burn. So we did it with some tomatoes in our workroom, and the one that had the biochar just grew so much taller and better, and we were picking little tomatoes all summer in the workroom. So it is just, we're not saying it is the only thing that's going to enrich your soil. We're just saying it's one of the tools that's going to help with the health of your soil. It's really good at helping with water retention and creating homes for beneficial microorganisms. So that's all good. There's so many different inputs that soil needs to make it really healthy.
Yeah. I'm glad you sort of brought that up, because I wanted to talk about the science of it a little bit and my understanding. I hope I don't embarrass myself here, but so it's basically carbon, right? It's almost 100% carbon. I'm not sure if it's quite 100%, but very close. If you put very rich carbon straight into the soil, that carbon will absorb other nutrients around it, right? So it will take away nitrogen or phosphorus or other nutrients like that and draw it in. And so just by applying it straight to the soil, and it depends, obviously, not all soil is the same, so it's sort of case by case, but it can potentially have a detrimental impact if you just drew it straight on. But by soaking it into the seaweed, it takes it out of there and brings the nitrogen, phosphorus and others out of there. And so then when you mix it and apply it to the soil, it then becomes a source of it and then leaches out, for want of a better word, into the soil, right?
Yes. That's right, yeah. And what you're doing is you're really trapping that carbon in. I mean, I think we've talked in the past about composting. We've even done a T-shirt, celebrating composting. Yes. And I think we always felt there was something about it that didn't sit quite right for us. And that's because that if you chuck your organic cotton T-shirt into your compost, it's just going to start releasing that carbon. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to trap it in. Yeah. And this traps it in more, better, for longer, we don't want the carbon going out. So I mean, I'm total fan of composting, but we just thought we want to try a little bit further. We want to try a bit harder. Yeah.
Well, what I love about this too, Emma, for those watching and listening who just sort of who maybe not understand, but the reason we've got this climate that we do and it's changing so rapidly is because we've been taking fossil fuels out of the ground, burning them and releasing that carbon into the atmosphere, other greenhouse gases too, methane, etc., from the likes of the cows and all the rest of it. But mostly it's coming from that. And so we actually need to have to reverse that. So we need to get the carbon out of the atmosphere and put it back into the soil. And so what, like you say, so you could theoretically put one of your T-shirts into a compost. It would take quite a while, but it would compost down, but it would naturally release the carbon and a little bit of methane probably as well into the atmosphere. And if we hadn't been burning fossil fuels, that wouldn't be a problem so much, because it would be a natural biocycle of carbon, right? Because you grow cotton and then you compost it back down. Everything would be in balance. But because of the fossil fuels that we've been burning at such a rate for decades or centuries now, we need to draw that carbon down, put it back in the soil, and so this is helping with that. So you're growing the carbon, and so you're growing the cotton. When it grows, it will pull carbon out of the atmosphere, that the cotton plant will, like all plants do through photosynthesis. Then you're turning it into the garments, and then you're putting it into this biochar process, capturing all that carbon and putting it back down into the soil. That's basically it. So it is a climate change solution, right?
Oh, well, I hope so. I mean, it's not the only thing, and it is the end of life. We obviously really value all the other things along the way.
Yeah,
We want
yeah,
to
good
keep
point.
clothing and circulation for long. We know the impact of that.
Yeah.
Like, wear something for another 6 months, and you're having an impact on the climate by doing that. So, we do that through encouraging good care. We do that through the materials we use. We do that through educating people about repairing. And then, offering to, the secondhand market. So keeping those garments. And I don't want people thinking like, oh, you've got the solution now, so you can do whatever you want because you've got the solution.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I might use that as a way to sort of segue into this question. You've kind of been telling us a bit about the journey already, but I'd like you to sort of, just a bit more explicitly talk about the journey to get to here. Because you sort of mentioned about a 20-year journey, but I imagine you weren't thinking you'd be making biochar 20 years ago, but you had this vision, and we've obviously been working with you guys for, I don't know what it's been now, maybe 6-7 years, helped you write a couple of strategies and a couple of reports and keep in touch with you throughout the implementation of those strategies. And it's been amazing being on this journey with you. But go back to before we even started working with you, and you sort of touched on it, that Gosha wanted it to be a business that had a positive impact on people and the planet. But if you could give us a bit of that timeline through to get to now.
Yeah. So I mean, starting with the material choice that Gosha made, that it's, I mean, fair trade obviously for the ethical side of it, but that it was a natural fibre, that it was organic cotton. And at the start, it was quite a simple. She made t-shirts. It was a very simple product. But as the business evolved, the demands of customers changed, what they want to wear, and the range broadened. It brought a lot of conversations within the business about, well, what does that mean for us? Are we going to give people puffer jackets, and are we going to, like all of that? So it was about being really focused on that original decision and keeping that sort of North Star, because even if we didn't have any science, I guess we just felt that this was the right path to be on. So it was just going deeper into that. Like, I think it's really easy to get distracted by a whole lot of things constantly, like all the things that you could do, blah, blah, blah. But it was actually like, okay, so how do we just keep on simplifying it down? How do we keep on reducing it? And that's where, I mean, all of the things that we're doing now go back to, like, it's just, why we did our plastic-free initiative, why we are, doing our whole circularity program. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, that's good. So I'm interested just to explore too the way you've kind of worked your way through the sort of hierarchy of solutions. So it's about, like you said, choosing the material at the start. So designing with the end in mind, right? Designing for the circular solution, and you then made good quality clothes out of the natural material, organic cotton. And so just to quickly make that point, although it's obvious that in the growing of that cotton, it's vastly less impact, right? Vastly less water, vastly less, chemicals, no chemicals, etc., versus your traditional or
definitely
kind of grown cotton. And so
unfortunately there's so little of it in the world. Like, there's about 1% is organic cotton, so
okay, that's another discussion for another day, Emma. And so then you went through, and your first decision to sort of start taking responsibility for your clothes was this take back type program, right? And you didn't really know what you're going to do, but you sort of took them back and started repairing them for your customers, and you still do that. And then you still have, and then you have a resale arm. And then you're still like, okay, we've got the repairs program, we've got the resale program, we've still got some clothes that are beyond repair, but they've literally got to the end of their life. Their only option is to go to landfill, and then the biochar came in.
But we call it Project One, the regenerate. Project One is biochar. So we don't see, we've really changed how we view the regenerate resource. It is a huge resource that we have now, and we want to do things with that resource that recycles and brings those garments back to life, one more time. We feel there's more in there rather than the biochar, but I think we sort of needed to we sort of needed to get that solution to now then go, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to do more around just keeping this resource, this material in use for longer. And it's kind of like all those sorts of things. There's a certain kind of natural order that it goes in, you know. And I think if we hadn't kind of focused on the taking it back to the earth, you know, the circle, you had the, I don't know, we've probably drawn it with you, you know, we have the soil and the cotton at the top, and then it goes around, and then it was like, okay, well, so it needs to go back into the soil. That's the ultimate aim. So we have to work on that. And I guess for us, we're very fortunate. Tessa is our amazing head of product and sustainability, who you know very well. She just had a really opportune conversation with someone at a party who was also working in sustainability, and sort of planted the seed of an idea about biochar. And she was like, wow, maybe there's something we can do here. So that curiosity, you know, it's kind of, it's such an exciting part.
Going to sustainability parties, obviously. Always totally. The best ones. I want to just ask a bit about the kind of commercial side of it. So I imagine you've done all this on your own cost. I understand with the repairs that you can resell, and the resell there's margin you can make on that and sort of cover the costs. How can you see this sort of being commercialized? Are you saving on having to pay for things to be sent to landfill? Are you, because obviously it's been a test of the science behind it, right? And that it will actually work and all that kind of stuff. And then if you start to think about scaling and the commercialization of that, have you got to that point yet? Have you got some thoughts how it would cover itself, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, sort of a bit. I mean, we obviously look at we look at the cost that is involved. And for us, you know, we never send anything to landfill. We do everything we possibly can not to. So we've basically just been storing it. So I guess there's a cost in storing this resource, which if we can then take it into this biochar, then that will save us money, you know. But we've been really fortunate of having incredible partners who have wanted to come on this journey for the trial with us. We've kind of had, you know, it hasn't been so much about handing over money, it's about handing over time, expertise, sharing their stories through our marketing, so that their businesses are brought up as well. So I guess there's the time involved is probably the biggest cost, the time for our team to just spend time doing this. And, you know, as you know, like once you decide to go down the product stewardship route as a business, it opens up, like, you know, now when I think about like just making clothes to sell, you go, that is just so sort of simple and small and like, why would you just do that? That just seems so boring. You know, we've created this other part of the business. Well, not it's always been part of the business, but it's just developed and grown and got so much richer. But it is a challenge financially, and you know, we see it overseas. Sustainability's going, well, I mean, Europe is forcing it back on the agenda, but you know, it is costly and it's hard. It's really hard to sort of sometimes go, okay, well, I need to figure out where I put my time and my energy and our money. And so, you know, we're trying to right fit it to what we can manage.
And I just want to, you know, take this opportunity to say such a big thank you for you for doing that, because we obviously, as you know, sustainability consultants and circular economy consultants, we're talking to businesses about this all the time. And in concept, it's so obvious, right? Everything in the natural world is a circular system. Everything grows, dies, and decays. It's water cycle, carbon cycle, nitrogen, all of that. It's a life cycle. So our economic system has to become a circular system so it can also be sustained. Otherwise, we unbalance the planet, which is what we're doing. We're putting more greenhouse gas in the atmosphere than there should be. It's changing the planet's temperature, and that's changing our climate, and we're getting these extreme weather events, and the same with destroying soils and biodiversity. So we've got to get to the circular place. But as logical as that is, businesses are often just like, okay, yep, right, well, we'll do some more recycling. And you're like, okay, that's part of a circular economy, but it's the last good option. The fact that you guys have gone, okay, really understood this and systematically worked your way through and broken it down and allocated time and allocated energy. And I know, having worked with you guys, that it's been tough, and you are not you've not been protected in any way from the economic downturn that we've faced, but you've kept on finding time, and you've kept on putting resource towards these solutions, whether it's the take back or the repair or the plastic free or now the biochar. So I'm so grateful that you guys continue to do that, because it'd be so easy just to go, oh, scrap it, sorry, no more stuff, just to sell more clothes, get them out the door, and we'll come back to that in years to in many more years time. But you haven't.
I mean, really, can you?
No, well, knowing you, Emma, and knowing the team at Kowtow, and knowing Gosha, no, but knowing how hard it is, and knowing the challenges of running a business as well as trying to implement these changes, you guys are a bit of a unicorn in the sense, and you are really showing such great leadership, which I'm so hopeful that will influence others to go, oh, maybe we will do that too. And yes, while I'm rambling on, just one more thing I love to say about Kowtow is the whole thing around pencils. And I love what you've done in your own headquarters within the office to create an environment of solving problems and bringing in these solutions. And so for those who are unaware, Kowtow don't use pens because they're plastic. They have pencils. So they obviously, as a team, were like, hang about, we've got all this effort to design plastic out of our garments, which is really challenging. We're working our way through it, and had the realization we've got these plastic pens. And so we went to pencils. And some people might think, oh, that's a bit far, is a bit over the top, isn't it? But for me, it illustrates that thing of creating the environment, and you've found a solution for how to write things. So therefore gives everyone in the team belief that you can then find a solution for the clothing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the pencils are a great thing. We've got the great pencil sharpener, which is like a little, up on the wall that you can.
Like another. I think
it just, yeah.
Like another water.
A bit like a water cooler kind of thing. And I guess it's, it is a little thing, but it's a moment of thought for people, and I think we all get overwhelmed by the magnitude of what is going on in the world, right? But it's and it sounds a bit trite to say every little bit counts, but I think it's those mind shift changes that really count, that people are making, and we hope that by doing what we're doing, and obviously being as transparent as we can, like telling people what we're doing, it will inspire maybe bigger companies, or we'd love to help them come up with solutions. We feel like we're sort of almost like we have this part of our business that we can help other businesses with, God, I don't know where we find time to do that, but anyway, with the door is open, we're open to collaborations and helping other businesses.
And to that point, Emma, you guys have published a manual, if that's the right term, on how you went plastic free, right?
Yes,
of all the steps you've taken, and all that IP you're sharing. I guess that the call out to other businesses out there who have got fabrics and materials at the end of their life, there are solutions there, and look into it and reach out to you guys if they have got cotton, I guess, to go in with the biochar.
We're always keen to help. I mean, we in New Zealand things are slow, but
in sustainability things are slow.
Things are slow, but we're part of an organisation in Australia called Seamless, which is there's been government funding, so they're looking at all these solutions. So we're happy to talk to Australian businesses, talk New Zealand businesses. There are things happening that we can do here, and I think the key thing is don't just send your waste off somewhere else to deal with.
Yeah, fantastic. That kind of answers this, but I'll ask it anyway. What does the future of the biochar initiative for Kowtow look like? Like, I know it's hard to gaze in the crystal ball, but you've obviously sort of cracked the nut here a bit, and you've got this solution. But do you plan to scale it? I guess it's a funny thing, right? You don't want to have clothes discarded. You want to repair them and resell them, keep them at their highest value, and circulate them there first. But you are going to get some that do get to end of life. What's the future hold for this initiative?
I mean, we're hoping by spreading the word as much as we have, that we will get more of the resource coming back to us. That's really important, because it's really hard for people out there. They don't know what to do with their clothes. Like, what
Yeah.
do I do with it at the end of its life, So we're hoping this will just bring a bit more understanding and recognition about this option that is out there for them. I mean, we would love to work with partners. We're actually about to have a meeting after this meeting because we've had quite a lot of people come to us now.
Yes.
So they've seen it come out and go, we'd love to do this with you. We've got blah,
Yes.
la, la, la. So, I mean, I can't really say any individuals yet because we need to talk about it. But I just think, us being able to scale to some extent. But like I said, we're not that huge, so it's going to be a bit limited, and we also want to use that resource in some other things. So I think at this stage it's a little bit early days to say how it's going to scale. Perhaps we'll end up partnering with an amazing soil company, and there'll be a special line that's the Kowtow supercharged soil.
Oh, amazing. Or even I was going to say getting it back to the fields where the cotton's grown, but then maybe not transporting it using fossil fuels. But anyway,
we had that conversation last week. Actually, it was like, this seems counterintuitive to do this.
Burning more fossil fuels, put more carbon in the atmosphere to get it there. We've just taken it out. Hey, well, thank you so much for what you and the team have done, Emma, and thank you so much for making time to talk to me today. It's as I said to you right at the start before we began recording, it's just given me such a sense of hope and optimism, which is in a bit of short supply at the moment. So thank you very much for everything you do and for chatting to me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Really appreciate the time to chat through this.
Just finally, for those who want to find out more, what's a good place for them to go and learn more about the Kowtow and the initiative?
Yeah, we've got quite a lot of information on our website with the launch. So go there first off, and you can probably get hold of someone through customer care if you want to have a bit more of an in-depth conversation about it. So and they'll spread the email to whoever seems the most relevant person. But cool. Always love to talk about biochar or anything circularity. So.
Thank you so much. I will put those links in with this recording as well. All right then, Mā te wā.
Bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of Progress in Practice. A big thank you to Emma for her time and for sharing the thinking behind what Kowtow is doing with such clarity and conviction. It's not every day you hear that a fashion brand is talking about biochar, but that's kind of the point, right? What struck me most in this conversation is how far Kowtow has pushed the question that most brands in this space are still circling around. Well, the fact also they didn't just stop at one solution, right? They kept on pushing through those circular economy frameworks and ideas. So they didn't just stop at making their clothes from certified fair trade organic cotton, which we know has vastly better environmental impacts or less environmental impacts than non-organic cotton. They then designed out all the plastic from their garments, which is a phenomenal feat. Why aren't more fashion brands doing that? And they've then had their resell and repair program, but they didn't stop after achieving all that. They kept on working through those circular economy solutions, knowing that they hadn't fully closed the loop and that there were still garments that do come to their genuine end of life and there wasn't a solution. And that until they reached out and started speaking to people in the biochar community. And now they have that solution. They can put their clothes into a big kiln, as Emma explained, and turn it into biochar, and then put that back into the ground to helping restore soil carbon. So if you want an example of a business implementing circular economy principles, you look no further than Kowtow. They've designed out waste and pollution, they keep products and materials in use, and they can now regenerate natural systems. That is, they are working to not just do less harm, but to actually do good. Now imagine for me a future where every business did that. Why should we accept anything less? If Kowtow can do it, so can other fashion brands, and so can other businesses in other industries. And look, I think this is significant that it is coming from a fashion label. It's an industry that is well known for having a hugely damaging impact on the environment and causing much harm to people throughout the supply chains. So this does feel extra significant that it's a fashion brand doing this work. Hey, if today's conversation left you wanting to know more or thinking more about the clothes in your own wardrobe, go and check out the Kowtow website. There's lots more information there. And if these Progress in Practice episodes or the themes within them, wanting you to know more about the work that Go Well do, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. So be able to find the Kowtow website and Go Well's website below. Check out another Progress in Practice episode. Until then, take care. Go well. Mā te wā.